Today I'm speaking with Lori Schwartz. She is from McCann Erickson, and what's your title there?
Chief Technology Catalyst.
Yeah, one quick follow-up question.
Yeah.
What the is that?
It's a really cool gig. Basically, I sit at the agency helping to bring technology enablement to the creative side of the agency. So I'm looking at all the new marketing technology solutions, all the new opportunities, and translating them on the brief side, on the strategy side, because traditionally a lot of that technology and a lot of those solutions were the low-hanging fruit for the media side. So the creative side sort of didn't pay as much attention to it. So I'm translating a lot of those opportunities, and I'm helping them understand where at the very beginning of telling the brand story they can start to leverage these solutions.
Okay, I just want you to understand one thing.
Yes.
We don't use the word leverage as a verb in the language.
What about strategery?
Strategery, go crazy.
Okay.
So I have spoken to many people with titles like yours.
Yes.
At big holding company owned major agencies.
Yes.
And none of them has the remotest bit of power, authority, budget, or anything, because they're basically, they're like human Potemkin villages. They're there to create the illusion that this old line, hidebound agency can, drag itself kicking and screaming into the latter part of the 20th century. So are you real, or are you just for show?
Well, I feel real. I think that I've been at IPG for 11 years. I used to run the Interpublic Emerging Media Lab. I helped found it. So I have a reputation already. I know a lot of the players, and so I'm able to navigate. So I think that sort of cultural history in the organization does help when you have a change agent role and you're not attached to a specific P&L or a specific piece of client business. So I feel like I am moving the needle because I've been able to find the right person, the right stakeholder, bring to them opportunities because I know their client's business, and really land the plane. And I would say I've also noticed over the last couple of years a change in people's receptivity to the change stuff, to the digital stuff, to anything that sort of goes outside of the norm. Their clients are asking for it. Everybody's dying to understand what's next. And I think everyone understands that the agency model is changing, so they're all hungry to know what those tools are. So it's actually been a really positive experience. I mean, do I still have to send a few emails, make a few calls, push on people to pay attention to what I'm saying? Yes, absolutely. Day-to-day business always trumps.
You have to call Nick Ryan, the boss, and say, I'm not getting return calls. Tell me about your actual political clout within the organization. With no P&L responsibility, that usually means fancy title.
No, I'm telling you, I'm being very honest. Like, I work with a lot of very senior people, and they pay attention to what I'm saying. Now, operationally, that means creating programs and establishing things and having things that are consistent. So, for instance, I just led an innovation series, which I'm going to do every quarter, where I bring vendors around McCann North America and all of World Group. And all the vendors get to present in front of the agency. And then they also have deep dives that afternoon to work specifically on pieces of client business. And so that's now an established process. And I worked with the heads of the offices to make sure the right people were in the room. And so when you get operational support and you work with the right people in the infrastructure of the office, then you can drive change. So you're absolutely right. This is a Luftmensch type of role, if I may use that expression.
Wow.
I know. You have to learn a little Yiddish every once in a while.
Wow. That's the first Yiddish outbreak in the entire history of the lounge.
Well, you have to land the plane. And so by creating actual things that people get used to and expect, then you can actually see, movement. So out of these innovation series, now I have case studies to work on. Now I have real projects to drive. And the more case studies and projects I have, then I have proof of, where we're going. And so I think if I was like new to the whole agency and nobody knew me and I didn't know who all the players were, I think it would be very difficult. But at this point, I have a good sense of like, who do I call to make sure all the right people are in the room? And how do I also ride the wave of what's happening at the agency? Because if they're in the middle of a big major pitch, I know I'm
not going to have their
yeah.
attention.
Yeah, and so you have to like ride the wave, and it requires a lot of patience. And you know, look, it was a big growth for me to understand how to navigate, and I have been doing it for a while. So.
Okay, two things. The first thing is that I'm so old.
I said growth. Is that okay?
No, growth. We're cool. We're cool with growth.
Okay.
I'm old.
Yes,
and
but
I remember the 70s
your
and the
skin looks
early
very
80s.
good, by the way.
Thank you very much. I use Dove, which I'm sorry is a
Chick product.
It's a WPP.
I'm fine
brand.
with that. Everybody has a little.
Unilever.
Everybody has a little piece of that.
Two things.
Yeah.
First, I'm old, so I remember the 70s and the early 80s. If you had run that kind of vendor roadshow for your management in like 1979, you would have had trailers full of cocaine backed up to the loading dock. Second thing is, you know, you talked about the business model.
Yes.
I know agencies know they have to shift. I know they are being told by their clients to shift, but fundamentally the revenue is still bizarrely a parallel line to media buys and basically TV ads.
Yep.
When you're arrayed against that overwhelming fact, overarching fact of life at an agency like McCann, how do you break through?
Well, you know, it is a big machine, and so it's sort of about winning the battles, you know, because the war is going to be going on forever. So I look at it like having cultural impact. So in Los Angeles, for instance, where I'm based, you know, I've noticed now that people are talking more about social. They're talking more about real-time marketing. They're talking about a lot of the things that I've been driving. And when they start to talk about it, they start to dig into it, they start to read it, they start to think about it. And so it is about making cultural change, and it's not going to happen overnight. So I'm starting to see the impact of that infusion happen. And it's very holistic. I know it sounds, you know, touchy-feely to you. Maybe that makes you a little uncomfortable. Maybe if it was the 70s, you know, you'd feel better about it. But I am starting to see the cultural change. I'm starting to see people that normally wouldn't think like that, think like that. And it is a real process. You're really taking it hill by hill. It's absolutely true.
Hill by hill, you and Ollie North. Lori, thank you very much.
It's been my pleasure, Bob. A real pleasure, and I'll look up some more Yiddish words to throw at you.
Thank you. Send them along my way. Lori Schwartz is the Chief Technology Catalyst at McCann Erickson. She's been my guest in the lounge. She's leaving now. So are you.